morning and welcome to Life in Style. This is Relationship Wednesday and we are on Talk to Pastor Chris. I'm your host, Chris J. Temo, coming to you from the Ibis Styles Hotel in Westlands, bringing you, all this ambience. This is a place that you would love to come to. We're coming from the rooftop. There's several restaurants over here, hotel accommodation, conference facilities. If you want to have time with your family or even with your business partners, this is a place that you would want to consider. It's in the Westlands area. Well, you know that when we talk to Pastor Chris, we come up with topical issues that affect you and build, grow, and nurture your relationships to become better. So today we're going to talk about how to identify and cope with emotional abuse. That's right, how to identify and to cope with emotional abuse. And to get us going, I've got three ladies on the panel. I'll let them introduce themselves, beginning with Rose from her father's left.
My name is Rosemary Gishure, and I'm a data analyst and a very passionate environmentalist.
All right. And then in the middle.
My name is Pastor Rose Morionge. I work with the Pentecostal churches.
Okay. And
my name is Wamboi.
Yes.
Wamboi Figa, and I'm a life coach.
Okay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You could, join the conversation. The hashtag is KTN Life and Style. Follow us on @KTN Life_Style for both Twitter and Instagram, KTN Life and Style for Facebook. You could also follow me at CJ Atemo on both Instagram and Twitter, and the page CJ Atemo for Facebook. Ladies, how do you identify? Let's first begin by defining what is emotional abuse. What is abuse, in a relationship?
The definition of abuse is anything that something, mistreatment of something or someone, or taking advantage of somebody, and it is normally done because of control and power.
How do you know? How does somebody know they're being mistreated?
Being mistreated, especially emotionally, has a characteristic of negative energy. You feel drained at the end of the day, or at the end of the season you are with someone. You feel so drained because they actually draw away your self-worth, or they let you have very low self-esteem at the end of it all.
All right, you keep on introducing jargon. So what is negative energy? Because I know that there is a generation that would quickly understand it. Probably they can't even explain it, but they would understand it. But there may be somebody who is watching and they wonder, what do you mean by negative energy?
Energy that is not building someone, or that does not allow someone to grow. For example, in a relationship, if you are criticizing someone and they're not able to move from a scenario or the kind of challenge they have, at the end of it all, they feel emotionally drained, and according to me, that is emotional abuse.
And I also think that when it comes to emotional abuse, it starts somewhere. It's not something that just comes all of a sudden. There's something called, what we call intention. The first thing is, what do you intend to do? So you find that somebody who wants to emotionally abuse someone could feel that they are not being heard. So you'll find that they'll raise the voice up, and it just doesn't start when you start a relationship that you raise your voice. It comes with time. So there's also what we call, there's a root cause of why that is happening. So to identify those things, you have to know what is the intention, what is the root cause of that emotional distress, even before you start. And sometimes emotional distress or emotional abuse that happens sometimes comes gradually, or it can come very fast. There are people who can drive it so fast, even coming out of a honeymoon. I'm just giving an example of a couple who have just gotten married. They can experience some emotional abuse. It can also be a long term, somebody who has lived in a relationship for over 10 years. So it depends on how progressive it can go, and it's important to understand that it has to stop from the onset.
Who determines that there is emotional abuse? Because there are two people in a relationship, and what one person might call mistreatment, as Pastor Rose would put it, or negative energy, as Rose would put it, the other person may not think that they are mistreating their partner. Is there a standard way to get to know that this is mistreatment and negative energy? Or is there room also for somebody to become manipulative, overtly needy, so that they think they're being mistreated, yet they could actually be the ones who are the culprits?
Normally when it comes to abuse. Unlike the other abuses like physical abuse, sexual abuse, spiritual abuse, emotional abuse is not felt by the people outside. Nobody can notice you are being abused emotionally. It is you who is being abused who recognizes this is not the right way. I'm not being treated kindly. I'm not being loved. You have to notice it by yourself. Nobody else can tell you I'm being mistreated or being abused. Because what happens is when you are being abused, your emotions rise up. Especially the hunger. You feel this is not right. Because it's the natural way of telling you something is not right.
But this is why I'm asking this. What if I am the type that needs too much from my partner so that they are doing their best and I keep on saying I'm being mistreated? Does that qualify for that abuse? What if I am the one who probably is demanding too much? I'm looking for too much attention, nothing is enough. So I say this person never does enough. Yet they actually feel they have reached their end in what they're doing.
I think there surely must be a balance, because on the contrary, there are some people who even never recognize that they're being abused. There are people who will come around and tell them that man or that woman is abusing you. And it starts from knowing yourself as an individual. And I think the greatest, there's a saying that says, if you can be able to conquer self, that is the greatest achievement of them all. Because once you know yourself, you'll be able to understand whatever comes outside, from outside you. Even the good book says, it is not what that comes from outside that destroys you. It is what comes from within you. So it's very important first to understand and know yourself. Then from then, you'll understand when you are being emotionally abused. There's something called, let me just introduce this, the Johari window. And I think people have, maybe you've heard about this, whereby there are things you know about yourself, and there are those things that you don't know about yourself, but other people know about yourself. So we cannot say it has to start from you. Like, it's you who should be able to identify that I'm being abused, because I've seen cases whereby people are in relationships, they're being abused, and for them, they understand that as love. On the contrary, that is not love. Or they've grown up knowing that being abused, or I have to have a husband who beats me regularly or emotionally abuses me every year. It's like a supervisor worker kind of relationship, yet it's not supposed to be like that.
Rose, I'll still come back to this. Because for anything to be discussed well, there's got to be a certain level of standards.
Yeah.
Because what about somebody who is saying I'm not being treated well? Then you sit down and you realize that their partner has actually done everything in their power.
I think we have also to come back to discuss in terms of what are the characteristics, some of the things that are visible when you decide or when you determine that I am being abused. And one of the ways in which we know or we can determine am I being abused, one is if you sense that you're not, when your partner senses that he's not hearing you or she's not hearing you, there's an attempt to increase the volume. Even that's why the noise comes in the house. So you can actually, you can never argue when the volume is down, because one wants to outdo the other. So when you see that has increased the level and also the words that come out, the kind of things that come out, then you know there's something here. And both of you need to understand that, no, let us talk. Or the next level is when we throw, what we say, you throw caution out of the window. When you say, you know, you choose to be ignorant. So for example, you'll find your wife does not, I'm just giving in a wife situation, your wife doesn't like you, you know, going out with other people, but because you want to, there's an intention you want to bring, there's something I want to express, you end up going out. And you find that now that becomes, you never beat her, you never do her, you know, but the way you behave, the things that you do what you think she doesn't like, so that she can hear you. Maybe you've been asking for sex, maybe 2 times a week. I'm just giving an example. But you're not getting it. So immediately this guy decides, okay, then I'm going to do contrarily. So when we throw caution out of the window, that's why you find that people behave in a certain way that you wonder, is this guy really thinking?
Okay. Is there, right, I still got to come back to this. So is there something that is standard for abuse, or does it depend on the expectations of the people in a relationship?
Sometimes it's not the standard. Sometimes is the way somebody treats you. Because it's all about emotion. Man is made of physical body. The emotions comes from the soul. So it's the soul that gets hooded. It's the soul that gets hurt. And so that person feels they are not being treated well. So the body reacts to the way the person is. And so that we balance is not the women's side, because you're insisting on the man's side of the story.
No, I've not insisted on the man.
There is the other side where men...
I've insisted on the man.
Because there is the needs of men and there is the needs of women. Right. Man needs respect. A woman needs love. And therefore, when a man does not give a woman love, for them, they are not loved. When a man is not respected, what she was saying, they feel men don't need love. They need respect.
Oh, they do.
So when you exchange, and even the Bible says about it, that man, love your woman, love your wife more than yourself. Because men are self-loving. They don't know how to love. So that's why even they are commanded to love. And then the woman is taught to respect, submit. Submission and love goes together, and respect goes together. If I can respect you, then I can submit to you. And then you find now that emotional abuse is, because you see it comes from conflict. Conflict is normal, conflict is natural, and conflict is neutral.
But don't you think that when two people are in a relationship, both of them require respect?
Yeah, they do. And I think maybe going back to what you had asked, are there standards or are there characteristics you need to identify for one to know that you are being abused? For sure, I feel for a normal human beings, there are those things which are normal. And one example is maybe someone being too controlling and you're not even able to be yourself around them. That is emotional abuse outrightly. Or you're not even able to have friends outside your marriage. You see this and you wonder, when I got married, it's like my life stopped there. And for me, that is emotional abuse. Why? Because a human being is dynamic, is supposed to be...
What if you've got a kind of friends?
Did it stop because of you, or did it stop because of the other person?
The other person being so controlling.
Oh, in terms of controlling.
Exactly. And for me,
no
I think
problem.
that control
but Rose,
is emotional abuse.
What if your partner, whether it is the man or the woman, feels like the friends that their partner has have negative impact on their marriage? Would that still be abuse? Would that still be a control?
No, that is justifiable for sure. And that's why I said they are normal things. But they are abnormal things. For example, someone tells you not to be working, that is emotional abuse, because you have the skills, you have everything, and the bottom line is, it's not that you are stopping working to do something that is worthwhile in the home, but you stop working so that you don't meet other people.
And do you see why I'm asking where the standards are? Yeah. Because I know that there is somebody watching who would not mind being told to stop working. For them, it would not be abuse. There are those who actually feel they need to stop working to be taken care of.
Let me defend that point first. Let me defend that point first. It's okay. You can stop working to maybe take care of things at home or to be taken care of. But there are those who feel by you working, you're meeting so many people outside there, and they're being jealousy of it. They're justifiable points. You can even stop working to take care of your children, which is very justifiable. But to the point of controlling, personally, I feel that is emotional abuse.
I also think that it is relative. Yeah. For example, the way we are saying, I mean, love has a language.
Finally, I have help.
I think it's very relative. Yeah. So what you do, it's between the two of you. Right. It could be that a man can tell, I'm just giving an example. He says, I'll not be doing this for you, I'll not be doing this. And a woman can interpret that as, is this trying, what is the intention? Right. And I said emotional for me abuse, if I define it according to me, is that it has to have a root cause. It just doesn't start in the air. Maybe there's tension within the home, and this guy feels the only way I can do this is by doing this. The only danger of emotional abuse is to escalate it into a level where now it becomes dangerous. Okay. Because you can find that there's a woman who is built a very beautiful house. She's getting everything, But the man or the both of them are not realizing they are not being compatible in the sense that they are not meeting each other's needs. And those needs are either physical needs, either emotional needs, either sexual needs. You know, there are so many needs. And that's what I'm saying, it's very relative. So it's important that people speak and say, I feel I'm emotionally, or because you're not hitting me. Maybe it is the silent treatment he gives me. Maybe it's the he doesn't respond to my needs promptly. Maybe it is not taking out maybe to Mombasa. So it's all relative. So you find somebody.
What if he's broke?
That's the thing. That you'll find a woman wallowing and saying, oh, neighbor lienda, you know, and I did not go. And she starts from herself. She starts feeling it and she starts voicing it, but the husband does not get the point, you know, does not get the, oh, this lady, maybe she needs people around her, maybe she needs a trip outside and things, and maybe speaking. You can speak to her and say, no, though you see me bringing this amount of money, maybe my financial situation or stability is not like this. People need to talk, and especially women. Once you open up, once you talk to people, once you talk as a couple, you'll be able to see what am I not meeting you? What are the needs that I'm not getting?
So you were talking about the importance of sharing expectations.
Yes, I think that is
that
important.
People need to communicate their expectations. And so when the other person intentionally does not meet those expectations, when they have the capacity to do
so, yeah,
then it is abuse.
Okay, not abuse. Let's not leave it to, you know, it's a kind of mistreatment. But it can escalate to the next level, where now someone starts getting depressed, starts feeling, you know, and that's why it's important for people to go out there, go to a church, go to groups, go to, you know, and so that you're able to say, oh, I'm actually very privileged because I can be able to have this and this. People, you know, talk to people.
What if you go into a group and then they actually make you feel very underprivileged?
Exactly, and I think that is where the problem is. There's something you mentioned about you start complaining and saying the neighbor had gone to a trip and you have not gone. I think that is a challenge that sometimes may not allow the expectations or the right expectations to be met between couples. Because now you start being in a competition, yet you are a different set of couples. You cannot be like every other person. And I think that's a big challenge when you start competing and saying, I want to be like so and so, without considering that you are two different people who have two different goals. And it's very important to communicate the way you put it. Keep on talking and don't blame the other person so much. But again, it comes to a point whereby if it becomes intentional to hurt the other person, like I'm doing this to hurt her or to hurt him, you go into silent treatment or you go to a trip alone just because you want to hurt the other person, now that is intentional emotional abuse.
Well, sometimes sometimes people do that when they're upset with one another and it is not continuous. But then there are cases where somebody feels that there is a continuous abuse in the relationship. What would be the root? What would be the center? I'm still trying to get over there. What would be the center of the action of an abuser? What would be the center? What would be the need that this abuser, not the one abused, but the abuser, what would be the need that...
I think the abuser mostly uses control and power. It's all about control and power. Because we are one and we are a union and a relationship. So if I want to use the power, like if a woman will use sex as a control mechanism, since you didn't do something for me, so no sex. That's abuse now. So it is when you use what you have, as we said, when you use what is there available to you, either you deny the other person or you use it to control them. And like men mostly use power. Men have what I call hard power. Women have soft power. For us, we may not go onslaught to harm abuse, but we may have what she's talking about, silence treatment. Since you did not take me out when we spoke, and you took somebody else out, you see now where abuse comes, it's not sometimes comparison, it's because there is some truth I know about you, which you are doing to somebody else. Like most men, what they do, they think, instead of working on this relationship, let me get somebody else aside. But a relationship is all about working out. So you see, if a woman feels emotionally
Let me be the voice for the men. I'm going to dispute the word most because we have absolutely no scientific proof for the word most.
Yeah. But I think also the bottom line is the conflicting issues within self. There is always a conflicting issues. We say even those people who abuse people generally, it's not because you are wrong. You know, sometimes you think, what am I not doing right? It is within them that sometimes they have conflicting issues. They have issues within themselves that they have not sorted out. So for example, you'll find a boy who saw his father beat the mother. And he used to hate the father so much. And he could actually take the father and maybe, when he became big, you know, until even now the father stopped doing the beating. But once he got into marriage, he started justifying, oh, this is what, so we say, when people see abuse, monkey see, monkey do. So when a boy sees the mother used to be beaten, it's not that he's going to stop in his own marriage. We have seen that the science has shown us that people who have been abused or who have seen abuse or been brought up in abuse and end up doing a lot of abuse in themselves. Because when he meets the same challenges in marriage, he justifies the action of the father and says, oh, that is why my father used to beat my mother. So he starts doing the abuse. And that's why the negative, you know, the way we used to say, oh, you tell the child that he's bad, you think that when he grows up, he'll be good. The negative motivation, they call it negative motivation, is not right. You should tell a child, you are good, you are nice, you are, so that he doesn't also replicate the same thing he did. Because he had his father maybe calling names. And so he does it in his own home.
So, just speaking from what you're saying, is self the core of abuse? Whether you're talking about, you know, somebody being denied, deprived, whether it is money, it is intimacy, it is communication, and all of that, all these things, to me, they sound like the center is supposed to be me. It's supposed to be me. Like, I'm not talking to you so that the attention is on me. I'm not giving you the money so that I have the power. I'm not bringing the intimacy so that I have the power. So is abuse a function of the self, a selfish kind of thing?
Yeah, true, I agree. And research has it that people who abuse other people are very insecure people. And it comes from the issues of self-conflicting issues that have happened for such a long time, and they have not been able to resolve them or to overcome them. And as Pastor has put it, yes, 90% of the time abuse is self, like it's you, not the other person. And as I said, if you can be able to conquer self, that is the root or the source of being able to come out of being an abusive partner.
Okay, very quickly, somehow we've been mentioning some things, but very quickly, how do you identify you're in an abusive relationship? We've mentioned a few things. You've talked about control, you've talked about not being treated right, but what are those things that you would tell somebody who doesn't see that there's something wrong in their relationship that they need to look out for? Because some people discover after a while, or they stay in it. In fact, it's like people don't easily walk out of an abusive relationship. They stay in it because they can't even see it as abusive. Sometimes they think it's just normal, the other person is just upset, it's just a personality, we're just having issues, maybe I've done something wrong. What are those things, whether there's a conflict or not, what are those things that you'd quickly point out and say this is abuse?
The most emotional abuse is low self-esteem. You as a person, when you are with this person, you feel downgraded or you feel you cannot rise up to what you are supposed to be. So you have that self-unworthiness. And even when you go out to other people, because it has been put in you that you are unworthy, you go out there, you don't expect people to love you, or you don't expect people to like you.
Forgive me for just coming in, because I want my viewers to get it right. So this person has gotten to a place where they have low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem.
But that doesn't come overnight. They don't wake up and it comes up overnight that they have low self-esteem. So what is this that you need to identify that can lead you to the place of low self-esteem?
If, for example, they stop taking care of themselves because of lack of self-worth, they stop taking care of themselves, and maybe they stop doing the things they used to do.
Let me rephrase my question. You're looking for the red flags. You're in a relationship with somebody how do you know they are abusing you? How do you, what do they do that will make you feel, now this is abuse?
I think some of the characteristics I would say, I don't know if it will answer your question on the third take, I think, is that if you identify someone who does not pursue peace. You know, the good book also tells us about pursuing peace. So you're in a restaurant, you're taken out, and you see someone, the way they talk to, about other people. That is a red flag. I'm just saying at the onset. Now, when you bring them home, this person will never peaceful in terms of you cook today chicken, no, kona chumvi kidogo, you know, umepika vizuri lakini, you know, people of lakini, umepika vizuri lakini haina chumvi. You know, that kind of a person makes you feel which standard am I going to reach that he becomes satisfied. So if you see someone who is never content, he's never contented, you can come up here, we come to this beautiful place, and we start saying, oh, you know, that's a red flag of people who are never content. And now when they get into a place where someone is higher than them, for example, because it cascades downwards. So, for example, if I'm not content at work, I may not be able to speak because I have a boss. But when I go to my home, I start being abusive because now everybody is below me for the men. If it's a woman, the kids are below you. So even you can abuse your own children emotionally. You keep telling them, wewe hata huwezi kuwa, you know, that's an emotional abuse. When a child wakes, why nilikuwa nakwambia utane, you know, those kind of things we give.
So there is the element of language.
I think and it's the first one. It's the first one that comes in, that shows that this person, because it shows the state of inside. I mean, it shows the status of who the person is.
If they speak, either they speak harshly, or insults, or they talk you down,
yes,
that's a red flag.
Yes.
You drive with a guy and he has a road rage, you know, just a road he loves, oh, sweetie, sweetie. But just someone cutting off or something, you know, just pick up, that's up, you know, to tell you, now when you're under him, or when it will still continue. So those kind of people really can be emotional.
It can be even in form of threats.
Okay.
In fact, that's the worst form of abuse.
Emotional abuse.
Because it's like you'll never feel safe with this person. The threats can be real. Somebody can tell you, I can kill you. So you don't know which day they are going to kill you. That's total emotional abuse.
It was in the paper, yes. Is it yesterday or the other day? Men cannot sleep completely because the women will kill them.
Does the threat of breaking up also qualify as emotional abuse? Breaking up.
Yeah.
You know, there are all those people who say, you know, I will leave. I will leave.
Yeah.
I don't think this thing is working. They're always threatening to get out of a relationship.
Yeah.
Is that emotional abuse?
Yeah, that is emotional abuse because it instills fear. You don't know whether we are going left or we are going right with this relationship. And that alone does not even help in helping that relationship. So it qualifies because it instills fear.
The other thing is anxiety. When you are with this person, you're always anxious. The Bible tells us to not be anxious because that's why I find most women are the ones who go to the church because they are the ones who take it emotionally inside. So they are looking for a way to heal the wounds. And in fact,
where do the men go?
There's a statistic that most women are living now longer because I meet with her, we talk. I share with her. So those wounds tend to heal. Even going to those chamas sometimes is not bad. Men should allow their women because they go open up and some of those things, then they are able to take when hard things come. Because most emotional abuse comes like when man is in the intent to give money which he doesn't have. So they lock up, they don't communicate.
And I think for our family, and especially men being the leaders, we need to recognize that it's important to be emotionally stable and to realize that what you do to your wife, it will cascade down to your children. And to your children, it will go down to maybe the cat in the house and so on. And even when they go to school, we've seen that the bullies in school are children who at home, not because of their economic, it has nothing to do with socio-economic, it is about the emotional status of those people while in their house. So you find a bully at home, a child who is bullied, abused by the father, called all the names, takes it to school and becomes the biggest bully. So emotional abuse is something that we all need to realize, recognize, and do something about so that our status within ourselves, we realize that, no, I'm going to be the stopper. So I can get an emotional abuse at work. When I come home, I shouldn't again cascade it to my you know.
Sometimes, interesting, you've talked about the thing of the children, but some of the bullies are not even bullied at home, but they're just angry. They're just angry. They could even have everything,
Yeah.
you know, but
That's
their
the thing.
parents are
Yeah.
missing. So they don't know how to express
Because
their
studies
anger.
have shown it has nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're angry because they don't feel they have
Yeah.
parental attention or parental presence. So they react and probably just left with a nanny who will not have the power to discipline this child or even to show the affection that the parents should. Then this child will be acting up somewhere else. Probably the parents are not even abusive, but they don't know that their absence is causing emotional turmoil in this particular child. Then the fact that now there is resource gives them the power to do whatever they want to do and get away with it. And some of the abusers are people who came from well-off families, you know. But I wanted to ask this question, apart from the fact that, you know, we need to find out and identify abuse at a particular place. How do we cope with it? Are we even supposed to cope with it? How do we cope with it?
The best way is first acknowledging. You have to know what she said. You have to know yourself. To know that I'm being emotionally abused, I have to acknowledge. By knowing myself, by going inside myself, no, this is not the right treatment. So you acknowledge it first. I'm emotionally abused. Then work out yourself first. Don't try to work out the abuser. First, work it within yourself first. Heal first the sores and the wounds.
Pastor Rose, how do you heal? How do you heal? For example, you stay in the same environment. This person has no idea that you actually feel abused. So they keep on doing the same thing. It's how do you heal a wound, for example, and yet somebody will keep on pricking it?
What I've recognized is that going to church and going to the temples and to the mosque is one way of healing, because you start receiving love from other people and from God.
But you're coming back to the same place. I mean, you are going to this place to heal. You're going to the hospital. They treat you. You come back. For example, he beats you or she beats you. You go back to the hospital. How are you healing?
Exactly. And I think it's very important to communicate about it. Once you are able to identify it, it's very important to again communicate and talk about it with your partner. And if it's an extreme case, it is good to separate for some time, because you can see the effects of emotional abuse are equivalent to death. When someone loses their self-esteem, they do not have self-worth, that thing they can transfer it very easily to their children and to the cat, as you put it, and it's not really worth it to be in such an environment. And that's why sometimes I advocate for separation, because it's very important for a human being to remain whole.
But
Personally,
other than separation,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, there can be a separation, but I think counseling is good. Counseling is one of the ways in which you can be able to manage. Go to life coaches, counselors, go to people, and as she said, church, you can hear a message and it can give you strength. It's important also to realize that as the emotional abuser is taking, you know, he escalates. Abusers always move to the next level. So for example, you see, oh, he used to beat you one slap, he used to, you know, then he adds another, and that's why we find that even when we go to this physical abuse, it started even as emotional. It can be both of them. It's an emotional, it's only that now it has come to physical. So you find that abusers have a capacity to escalate to another level, to keep moving. It's like moving a boundary. And so it's important to speak and to speak it out.
At what point are you supposed to speak?
And it depends on who first. I think for me it's important to speak it out to the abuser first.
At what
to
point?
say, at that point of saying, I think I don't like this. I think the
Okay,
threats that you keep giving me.
Let me make it easier for you. So, the first time this person speaks in a bad way, shouts, screams, slaps, or does something,
you should stand up. Okay, one of the ways we say also
is it the
for
first
abusers,
time they do it,
yes,
or you
from
wait
the
until
onset.
from
You
the
say,
onset?
I don't like the way you're treating. And you say with I don't like the way, because if you go you, they will become very defensive. So you say, I don't like the way you treat me. I would appreciate if this and this and this. Now I'm speaking on an academic kind of a way. In the normal way, that is the same way you would do it, but in the I. Don't try and push things to them. Try and accept and say, I may understand, I may not understand why you did this to me. I may not understand why you keep coming after 2 days. or 3 days. I would like to understand. Can we talk about this? And if we can't, can we take it to another
element?
Oh.
Absence from the home is abuse, without explaining.
There's an emotional, part of it because
you always feel what is happening. Yeah. There is that question, what's happening?
Yeah.
Okay. Even this
if you care about somebody, obviously you would want to know what's happening to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially women, we are very insecure. When we hear a man is with another woman, we come back to ourselves. We don't care what is happening to that woman. We ask ourselves, what don't I have? What is it that, I try to do makeup, I try to, competing with the other, the invisible one. So you find that can also can take a toll on you. So the most important thing is to identify and speak with that person and say, this is what I feel and what, and if it can't, can we try counseling? Then maybe if they can't try counseling, you always have to look for a solution.
Is there a place for confrontation?
If we are strong enough.
If you're strong enough?
If we are strong enough, yes.
Because I'm trying to imagine the case that Wambo is talking about, like I don't like how you treat me. Now I'm thinking the extreme case. I'm thinking the extreme case where somebody has actually like physically inflicted you with injury or something, they've beaten you. Is there a place where you also feel like now you've got to be firm and say, don't ever do that again? Or you still supposed to find a diplomatic way to pass the message?
No, I think diplomacy, there's a place where diplomacy ends, and especially when it comes to physical abuse, because now it is it's now physical. You're injuring my own body. So I think it's very important, as you put it, Wamboi, to look for all solutions, but there are extremes whereby you're being beaten and you're still looking for solutions. For me personally, I think that is out of the whole thing, and that's why I advocate for separation, because now when someone starts beating you,
is that the first step? Is that the first step?
No, you can try to go for counseling. Most people who physically abuse other people don't like going for the counseling.
But what about now if it is just at the point of emotional abuse, it's not physical, and it is killing? You guys are talking about the self-esteem. It is killing your persona. You are always anxious, as Pastor Rose is saying. You're anxious. You're so fearful. You feel low every time. And then you've been married to this person for about 15 years. You don't know any other life. You don't even know how to move out. What are you supposed to do there? You've got children.
I think what we say about abuse, especially physical, you don't confront an abuser. Because especially when the person, like I'm just giving an example, like a husband, sometimes we are weaker, women are weaker. One of the ways and one of the things we tell people, don't confront, because it can escalate. When a man sees that, oh, sasa, he might move it to the next level. The most important thing is to remove yourself from the scene of what is happening and give him time. He needs to cool down. You shouldn't discuss sense when someone is holding a panga. But there are homes, and we have had issues where doors are locked and the person now is on you. Now you must find safety and so on. So that is God and you, to help you. But when it now comes to confrontation, it depends on what is confrontation. It can be a subtle confrontation and say, I don't like the way, you're not going to slap me anymore. I'm going to move from this scene and we'll discuss this when, in an amicable way. Otherwise, one of the things I've also realized, and I always tell women, and people have seen, you're talking too much. There are men who never speak. Like, they're so, lakini unaongea ukiwa karibu na yeye, utagongwa. But you should speak. Ukiwa unataka kuongea, I always tell women as a strategy, ongea ukiwa kwa mlango. If you want to speak, it's foolishness to start para, and
Okay. Now we're running out of time. But because I just only have a minute, and I want to find out this. Even when there has been the issue of separation, then sometimes somebody says that they're very remorseful. They would like for the relationship to work. In a nutshell, very quickly, what are those things that you look at and say, okay, this relationship can work? How do you know there has been a change? What is that thing that you look for?
That he is willing or she is willing to go for counseling, or to have somebody else come in between. Because if somebody is not willing to confront the issue, then they'll just lip service. You come in, you start afresh again. Right. So if they are willing to deal with the issue, if it was finances, was it finances that brought that? Then are we willing even to open up? Is the man willing to open up financially and say, this is the money we have, I cannot afford that trip, but we can do it in future. Opening up.
Okay. Okay.
If they're willing to communicate and get a solution, and to the abused, I think it's important to forgive. If you've separated and the other person is asking for a chance, it's very important first to forgive, so that you are at the same level whereby you can communicate. And to the abuser, at least change the kind of language maybe you used to use before, the emotional kind of abuse. It's important you change so that things can go back to normal.
Your last word.
I think it's important for people to go for couple counseling before you come back together. As you said, they are separated. They need to go to see someone, either counseling professional, because it's about issues. I told about conflicting issues within someone. Maybe someone is just emotionally abusing because they have issues. Maybe he's sacked, he doesn't have money, and so on. So he doesn't know how to cope with that. So if he can be able to express or even show that they have some skills that they have acquired, some life skills that they have acquired, they are able even to cope with the other person, so that it doesn't continue within the home. The willingness.
All right. And I will send you to find a counselor. If you're going through emotional abuse, if you feel that that's what's happening in your relationship or marriage, I will send you to find somebody to talk to, somebody that can work it out between the two of you, so that you'll be able to see whether it can be salvaged or it needs to be let go. Because in some cases, you just have nothing to come back to. There's going to be no change. But if there is the willingness for two people to change, work it out, accept their own responsibility, not blaming each other, not having silent blame or even silent, people having issues with one another, and they're willing to take responsibility, it's a good place to start. If you are in an abusive relationship, find help, talk it out. Call somebody, talk to somebody, let them know what is going on. If you need to move out and just sort out your issues, then do so. That's all the time that we've had for Talk to Pastor Chris right now. Remember, we're coming to you from the Ibis Styles Hotel. This is in Westlands area, and you could come here for both business, family, leisure, pleasure, and have some time over here. The conversation goes on Twitter, but remember, Crystal Okusa is coming up next with Style with Crystal.